Good morning, good day, good evening, good night. It's about 1:44 o'clock Eastern. I'm just sitting here with my feet on the ground, kind of just about to go outside, but I'm just sitting here. Just put the phone down from the scrolling the social medias. It's really interesting how this is all popping off, man. Everyone's is doing the thing, man. They're just doing the thing. We're all doing the thing. And it's not the thing that is really important, but what's coming through the thing is interesting. Because all these years, I've been, connected to the social media and cultivating this practice, this habit of scrolling. And there's many points where like, well, why am I doing this? What is this all about? What is this all about? I think that is as many negatives about social media as we can fixate on, or, ultimately I think it's actually a very good thing. I think it's a very good thing, social media. It can definitely be a distraction, but distractions are interesting. Everything is interesting, but distractions are interesting. Because there are certainly distractions that disturb our mind and disturb our peace. And then there are also distractions that distract us from other distractions. It's kind of like how a lot of people who disrespect ganja, cannabis, they say it makes you lazy and unmotivated. And on the surface it would seem that way, but if you sit with it and you perhaps realize something, you'd see that being motivated to do everything is not necessarily a beneficial trait. Because most of our problems come from doing. And so if you stop doing, you suddenly become lazy. You might stop meddling. And lazy is an assessment and a judgment from who? Because right now, my position is a gardener and a yogi and I have a gajillion things to do, but at the same time I really have nothing to do. Now, with that statement there, I can be considered an unproductive whatever, a bum, lazy. I'm lazy. But I know I'm not lazy. And I know I don't engage in fruitless endeavors. I know I don't engage in vain imagination. I know I don't do things that are senseless. And while I might not be moving my body all over the place, I am definitely not lazy because I'm thoroughly engaged and non-stop. This hair is it's not a style, and I don't feel like talking all about it, but at the very least it's like it's a record. How long did it take you to grow that? You know, people often ask me, how long have you been growing that? And I'll tell them, coming up on like 8 years or so. Wow, it's long. Yeah. The thing about it is that it's as long as this has been growing and longer, I have had meditation and contemplation and introspection and prayer and mantra and yoga and study, and all these things have been my priority in life. My priority has not been to make money. My priority has not been to get things. My priority has not been to go here and go there, and my priority has been nothing except to purify myself and clarify and strengthen and affirm the connection to I, to the Creator, to the Source, to the One Almighty, and to allow it to. I don't know what the. So as long as I've been growing this, I've been a lazy, unproductive person. Depending on what you can see and perceive and where you're at with everything. And so it's really not a bad thing to not be productive. You know, eating is a doing act. And if you're eating pure food, it's a good act to do. But if you get ill from eating too much, or just ill from living in whatever way you live in that causes illness, if you stop eating, you get lazy with your consumption, your body can fast. And fasting is a most powerful healing methodology. Your body inherently is immaculate. And it's only through our immersion in culture and society that leads us to be degenerated and believe that disease is a common thing. People all over take it for granted that you're supposed to get sick. They think every year, you expect to get sick, you expect to get the flu, you expect to, it's just like, I just know from growing up, all the people who I used to be friends with, and this and that and the other thing, it's like over time, you see that people are very self-destructive in their beliefs. And eventually you discover that most of what people believe is absolutely bullshit. It's not true. We were intended to experience joy, well-being beyond measure, an exponential increase of peace and joy. We were meant for really, really good stuff. But we were given the chance to, forget and remember, and in the process of forgetting, we have remembered some things, or we have in forgetting we have forgotten. And so before the truth is remembered, there's a lot of half-truths, there's a lot of lies, there's a lot of fantasies, there's a lot of things that come in and take the place of truth. And we go with those for as long as they work, and they ultimately don't. And at some point we reach a limit. We reach the limit of the lie, and then we find ourselves either imposed into a quarantine by the government and the world situation, or we choose to quarantine ourselves intentionally. And so it's interesting, this quarantine, and back to what I started out saying, how everyone's, like I'm doing, where we have to connect and express in some type of way. And there's a way to connect through here and, what I cannot even describe. And there's a way to connect with this and that, and to speak and type and listen and that's what's interesting, because ah, this quarantine is an amazing opportunity to really connect with something profound within ourselves. But due to our habitual patterns and our regular way of living, a lot of us are finding it very uncomfortable and very difficult to be with ourselves, which is pretty insane to think that yourself, which you can never be away from, is uncomfortable to be with. That's a tough position to be in. It's a tough position to be in, to find that your basic being is troubled. So troubled that you'd be willing to go bang your head on a wall for relief, rather than just rather than just see, we commonly operate with the assumption that we must be motivated to go and do and get and have and sense. We have to do all these things because for some reason, without all these things, we feel incomplete and we feel troubled. The thing is that it's often all these things that we think are fixing the trouble that are causing the trouble. And so, now that this shit is this long, I can sit here and I can just simply breathe and listen to whatever sounds there are. And I can scroll and I can witness those things. I can see where I'm at, I can see where we are at, and we can all collectively navigate. Because we're all interconnected, we're all relaying messages, whether we post, share, like, or subscribe, or just simply sit out in the backyard. We are all transmitting, we are all in communication, we are all in this together. And I believe it. I believe that the epiphanies that happen within you are shared amongst all you know and all you don't know. There's every epiphany you have, somehow it adds to the whole. And we also bear each other's burden as well. This struggle, we are all in it together. We're all in it together. And that's why I'm voicing right now, because I'm fortunate to be comfortable with myself. I'm not really reaching out because I'm I'm lonely or I want something. I really am just kind of feeling really well, really content. And I see that most people are experiencing a lot of discontent. And so if there's any way that I can help that, which I have no real means, I have no money, I have no possessions, really. I have some simple things. Um, but maybe, if you can't really quite meditate yet, and your mind is all over the place, maybe just looking at me ramble for a couple minutes, maybe something calms down on you. Because I remember through my journey, there's been so many times where I was miserable and in horrible states of mind, and the only thing that brought me peace was to go into the YouTubes and type into something and listen to someone talk. Listen to someone speak. I remember many nights, the only thing that could get me to sleep was listening to this guy named Alan Watts. Listening to him talk. Yeah, and so I just want to testify that life is truly meant to be a very good thing to be. And I will say that I really do feel for everyone and where they're at. I am not trying to deny the chaos. I'm not trying to deny the pain. I'm not trying to deny anyone's hurt. I'm not trying to deny anyone's feelings. I can say here that life is inherently a blissful thing, but I can also say it is definitely a challenging, painful ordeal. Because through my journey, I have been so low. I have been so pained. I have been so uncomfortable. I have been so tormented. I have been in such low places that I thought would never clear. I thought I would never make it. And here I am. Part of my journey has been separating from, all my friends and family and pursuing the woo, pursuing the mystical, pursuing the spiritual, putting God first. So much of the world wants to say God isn't real. So much of the world wants to say that all this is ridiculous. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not. And I'm not concerned with the opinions of sheep. And I'll tell you that most of the sheep are not really sheep. They've just been raised within a sheepish society. The thing is we're all misidentifying. We think of ourselves in a way that is different from what we truly are. And so let me tell you, whatever the greatest thing is that you can imagine, you're better than that even. Because whatever greatness you can imagine or visualize or consider, whatever the greatest greatness is that you can, well, you are. The greatest greatness is, it pales in comparison to your true self. Your true being, every single one of you. Every single one of you. Every eye. Every eye. So if we're so great, what were you saying we're supposed to have, no, this isn't about, I guess, well, greatness. So what is great? What is great? If we're suffering, we think great is more. So we want more things, we want more thises, we want thatses, So even now, what I'm saying almost is that your greatness is not something extra. You already are great. And the greatness that you are is greater than anything that can be considered great. Whatever can be considered great can only be gauged as great based on the greatness that you inherently are. The trouble comes from is when you see something great and you lose sight of yourself. And I'll tell you, losing sight, depression, anxiety, struggle, conflict, these things which seem not great are also great. That's what I found in my journey as well, and that's what's kept me. I found a way to appreciate the lows, to appreciate the valleys. It's very easy to, I don't want to say easy, it's very, it's a common course of action to say if you get a breakthrough, if you all of a sudden find some clarity, you all of a sudden do find some peace, it's a common thing to ruin that by clinging to it or forgetting where you came from in a way. If you were in a depressive valley for a long time and then all of a sudden an epiphany occurs and you find yourself well, oftentimes it may not last long because it's not stabilized yet. And I found that one of the ways to stabilize the well-being is to give thanks for the lows, to give thanks and appreciation, and to continue to consider. While you're depressive, it is good to contemplate so that you can find some kind of truth, and then that can help you to climb. But when you are climbing, it's good to not forget that. Because no matter how high you climb, you're going to have to come back down. And let that be known as well, that no matter how low you are, you will have to come up. Whether you are able to make it or not, there is a force that will draw you up. Because this is just the way of things. Things flow from high to low and low to high, and it's just a natural way. And the high is the high and the low is the low, and it's true that neither one is better than the other. That's the thing. It's just that in the lows we tend to be wanting the highs, and that makes the low bad. And in the highs we just either forget the lows or we try to resist the lows. We just want to stay there. But if I was to make a metaphor of hiking across, mountains and valleys, the mountains have very profound vistas and sights. It's beautiful. The air is crisp and clean. It's a wonderful place to be. But it's not necessarily somewhere to live exactly. Up at those valleys, the tops of the mountains, there's not much food, there's not much vegetation, it's cold. There is a certain life there, but there is also not as much life there. And then in the valleys, there seems to be a lot of death, but there is also more life. Because in the valleys, it's fertile. It's fertile. Know that the valleys are fertile. What does that mean? That means there's great opportunity in these lows of our life. And so the mission is not to hang out at the tops of mountains. The mission is to cultivate something profound and find peace wherever you may be. Wherever you may be. And if you get lost, the ground is never far. You don't have to run around like a maniac and bang yourself into walls and trees. You can sit still. And I know that sitting still is difficult for many right now. And that's what this whole thing's all about. It's like, how can I help you to be still and at peace? As you're sitting there, are you like overwhelmed with thoughts that are telling you that you're lazy? Are you like, what has to be done? Let's ask ourselves this. What is it that has to be done? What is the fundamental task that we must do? How many things that, do we think we must do that may already be done or may not even truly be necessary? And so may all these questions be something to consider with ourselves. If you can't be at peace by sitting, use that chaos, use that angst to inquire, to question. You know? Let's stop squawking about everything. And this is to everyone. Because I see a lot of you, dear friends and family, people I really do love and appreciate. I'm seeing you share a lot of things that are just like, okay, put it down, bro. It's not helping. You don't have to post a million things about these things, because that's not what's going to fix anything. And by all means, post all you want. I don't want to inhibit anyone from expressing how they express, because that would be hypocritical. Everyone should share freely, for sure. But at the same time, how many times may we say the same thing? And here I am. I mean, I say it's all, look, it's, what I'm saying is that being afraid of cell phone technology, being afraid of the government, being afraid of this illness, being afraid of people's ignorance, being afraid of ourselves, being afraid of nature, being afraid of everything. It's defeating. We're not here to be cowards. We're not here to be in fear. We're here to face fear and see clearly through it. See clearly through it. And I'll tell you, the powers that may or may not be, the only power they have is through your fear. Through your fear. And I'll tell you, as much as you think these things are, there's so many missing pieces. I don't care how good these channels are. I don't care how valid the sources seem to be. There are so many missing pieces that there's just no sense in even being afraid. There's no sense in even heeding this shit. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sure everything I'm saying can be met with a barrage of intellectual critique. I'm sure the mind can just go on and on and on about everything to defend its position of fear. So if I can't tell you to stop being afraid, maybe I can just tell you that I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm sitting here in the same situation that you all are in. I'm in the same world, connected to the same thing, and I have no worries, no qualms. I'm not afraid of these cell phone towers. I'm not afraid of this whole agenda. I'm not afraid of these vaccines. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to go get a vaccine, but I'm not out here thinking I'm going to change people's minds. And so then what is this whole video about? I guess I don't know. See, that's the thing. That's the thing. How can I say that it's all good, but I'm also, I don't know. I guess my main bit is this, is that it is possible to be peaceful. It is possible to be well and content. And there are things in the way of that. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's this idea of doing and not doing, and where they meet and mend and blend. And, you know, you can stress all this, and you can, you know, try it, or you can just accept things as they are and surrender, and just see what maybe is behind the scenes. Maybe there's a subtle message behind everything. That's what I'd like to say, is that on the surface value, all these things that, yeah, from a certain way of considering them, it is worth being maybe afraid. It is worth being concerned. You know, it is worth being concerned. But is it concern that's going to set us free? Is it concern that's going to be the solution? I don't think so. Maybe it's realizing that we're greater than anything. We're greater than some frequencies. We're greater than some this and that. We're greater than science. We're greater than philosophy. We're greater than religion. We're greater than ideology. We're greater than, we're greater than all these things. Inherently, our basic core self, without any extra doing, it's damn near perfect. I guess that's the thing, is like a lot of these fearful things are coming from people who I believe are inclined to God. And so let us really consider what our faith really is. Do you have faith in God, but you're still worried? Well, then what faith do you have? What faith do you really have if you're so afraid? Oh, God is everything, except for these things here. These things that these evil humans are doing, it's not God. And because I believe in God, I want people to be conscious and aware. I gotta spread the truth. The thing about truth is most of it isn't. Just like all of this. It's just shit. Or is it a poopy pile? Are we involved in a shit show? Or is it a pleasant poopy pile? Which is full of fertility and critters and microbiota and since it's warming up, it's soon to spring forth and flourish. In love, peace, clarity, and truth.